Once again, Switch to Linux calls it. Yeah, Windows is not allowing you to install Windows 11 on unsupported PCs. Welcome back to Switch to Linux, where we talk about Linux and open source software, privacy, and other things related to that. And yes, we do discuss Windows on Wednesdays typically, because we have to really get into some of the things that drove me and other people to switch to Linux. And maybe that gives you the final thought and the encouragement to look into other options. And so what I wanted to mention here today is that, of course, last week, there were a whole bunch of articles and videos going around saying that Windows is now allowing you to install Windows. In fact, I had wrote the script for the video last week prior to seeing that news. So my video from last week, more e-waste, Windows doubles down on e-waste. And a lot of people in the comments said, well, you missed the updates. No, now they're allowing you to do that. Even though I had wrote my script and then I was getting ready to record it when Ivan sends me some links to some articles, and I think he sent me a link to a video actually, which is saying, oh, Windows has changed their support article, and that was this particular support article adding this paragraph in bold, which says this PC, it says, let me go back up to the point that goes into that. The following disclaimer applies when attempting to install Windows 11 on a device that doesn't meet the minimum system requirements. And then you'll see this statement. This PC doesn't meet the minimum system requirements for running Windows 11. These requirements help ensure a more reliable and higher quality experience. Installing Windows 11 on this PC is not recommended and may result in compatibility issues. If you proceed with installing Windows 11, your PC will no longer be supported and won't be entitled to receive updates. Damages to your PC due to lack of compatibility aren't covered under the manufacturer warranty. By selecting Accept, you are acknowledging that you have read and understand this statement. Now, on my original video, I added that part in, that support, and I commented on that basically saying this doesn't really change a whole lot. And I don't always put a posted comment, but right when the video went live, exactly when the video went live, I left this comment. Of course, people don't always read the pinned comments. Maybe you should if the creator pins a comment. To preempt any of the folks who might say, I missed on the update, yes, I did see it. It is the second article in this video. They are, quote, allowing, end quote, but with great restriction and in a way that looks very temporary. Also, unless it's a mere checkbox and people still need to go through the registry edits, I didn't look into the full upgrade without requirements process, it is still a barrier. Also, the constant nags will get their point across anyway. So obviously I had a lot of people saying, oh, they're allowing it now. They're allowing it now. And the reality is I didn't look into how to install it. Nothing has changed. Windows has not changed anything. Effectively, they added this paragraph simply to say that if you are getting it on the system, you're not going to get updates. You're not going to be as secure as they want you to be secure. And that is really where the system is going. Now, because everybody and their brother did a video about Windows will now support it, and everybody, those people apparently all left their comments in my video saying, no, they're supporting it now. They actually updated the article the day that came out. I think that was the day that came out. 6 days ago. Yeah, it looks about 6 days ago. They actually updated the article because of everybody come out and saying that Windows is backtracking. They updated the article to say this support article was originally published on October 4th, 2021. When Windows 11 was first released to the public. At the time of the publication and still today, the intention behind this support page is to detail considerations for customers to understand the implications of installing Windows 11 against Microsoft's recommendations on devices that don't meet system requirements for Windows 11. If you installed Windows 11 on a device not meeting Windows 11 system updates, Microsoft recommends you roll back to Windows 10 immediately. Windows 11 minimum requirements remain unchanged and can be found in the the article. There's another article linked. So no, they have not changed that. So Windows Central reported this a couple of days ago, right about the time everybody was still out there. And of course, everybody is still out there thinking that Windows is backtracking on this. They're going to solve that e-waste problem. No, they're not. They're not changing anything in what they are doing. So an incorrect report claims that Microsoft was dropped Windows 11 strict TPM requirement, and it hasn't. So they say here, the past week, a report that appears to have originated from PC World. So let's have a look, see if that's the article. I can't remember exactly what the article is. So this updated. Microsoft warns against installing Windows 11 on incompatible PC. The company reaffirms the implications. I'm guessing, let's see. Okay, I don't think that was the original article, but the reports originally linked to that, making the rounds, claiming Microsoft now allowing users to upgrade to Windows 11 on PCs that don't meet strict system requirements. Didn't take long for Reddit threads and social media posts to pop up discussing Microsoft's supposed change of heart, not to mention the countless YouTube videos most of us have seen. Once again, I was correct. I did downplay it a little bit more in that video, but I still did mention there as the original script in my video, yes, they are holding firm on this because they are forcing these things on you. Here's what the article claims from PC World. With Windows 11, Microsoft's chief requirement is the availability of a TPM 2.0 chip. In most cases, you didn't need the TPM 2.0 for Windows 11 until now. Users can upgrade directly to Windows 11 without the need of the hardware. Their source is that same article where the report says that Microsoft is now detailing steps for Windows 11 on unsupported PCs. It says the unexpected and puzzling move, the company's issuing instructions for installing Windows 11. There was nothing in the support article about it. They're basically just saying if you happen to get it back onto there. And what they actually, Microsoft said, what they added is the only other thing they added in the article was to have the information about rolling back to Windows 10. So let's talk about the clarity here. Let's get what's going on. You have a computer that's running Windows 10. Windows 10 is set to stop receiving security updates on October 25th, 2025, somewhere around there. It's somewhere in October 2025, which is 10 months from now. Now, an end user, a home Windows 10 user, can pay $30 for 1 more year of security updates. You can keep your computer securely updated up until October of 2026, meaning you now have roughly 2 years or a year and 10 months before you would have to upgrade your system. So if you go to the store and buy a computer now, it's going to have Windows 11. If you go out and buy a license key for Windows 11, it is possible to jerry-rig that key onto your system. If you have a Windows 10 and the updates are not allowing Windows 11, you can do some tweaks to get it Windows 11 installed, but Windows 11 may not ever support the system. It may never push security updates. You're not any more secure running that than you are getting rid of a computer. So in other words, Microsoft is still doubling down, which I do need to specify in here. Somebody from Britain area, UK, I should say, said doubling down means something different over there than over here. Let's go ahead and talk about that. That was one of the comments in the video. I'd like to address that now. Doubling down in America means you have made this statement, you have had pushback, and you push beyond the pushback. So in other words, you're going to stop supporting PCs. People are going to push back against it. You're still going to stop supporting PCs. I guess over in UK, doubling down means to backtrack, I guess is what the comment said. So to put it maybe more internationally, Microsoft is not changing their position. They are not allowing you to install Windows 11 securely on an unsupported PC. And that is what they are saying throughout the article. So if 2025 happens and you want to maintain a computer that has security updates, you either A, have to switch to Linux, wipe out your Windows system and switch to Linux. You have to B, throw away the computer or sell it or keep it offline and go buy a new computer to support Windows 11. maybe see if it's a custom built computer. Maybe you can add a TPM 2.0 chip or change the processor, do whatever you need to do to bring it up into the system requirements. Okay, that is a possibility. Or you can proceed along with an insecure computer, and those are really the things that we're addressing here. And so nothing here has changed. They are still going to completely add piles and piles of e-waste as Windows 10 computers simply cannot be updated to Windows 11, and the end consumers have to throw them away and spend the money they didn't have on a new system. Unless, of course, you decide you want to attempt to switch to Linux. And again, that's what this channel is for. And we have countless videos about testing that out. You can either test it out with a USB drive. On Windows, you can install a software called Ventoy. And we have a couple videos on this. I don't know if I have one from Windows. I might investigate that, making a Ventoy on a Windows system. But you can install Ventoy and play around with Linux ISOs. You can install Linux directly onto an external hard drive. You can install Linux into a virtual machine. You can play around with it. What I always recommend people do is not to do the cold turkey. Don't wait until October 2025 and say, I don't want to pay the extra $30. I'm just going to throw away my Windows install, switch to Linux because I want the latest security. You will probably frustrate yourself. And so I would recommend now start playing around with it. If you have a bigger, beefier computer, go ahead and install a virtual machine and run Linux distributions in virtualization with Windows being your host. You can get a very good feel for what Windows feels like doing that. If you can't afford another computer anyway, you could just pick up another computer and experiment with Linux and see if that's going to go forward, although that doesn't save the issue of the e-waste most likely. You can also, though, install Linux onto an external hard drive and use that external hard drive as a Linux system and then unplug that drive and use the system as a Windows computer. I'd recommend playing around with Linux a little bit now in a way that does not mess up your current Windows installation. Secondly, I would recommend starting to look at different software. So some of the software you're using is available on Linux. Your web browsers, email clients, some basic applications might be on Linux already. You might look around about that. Now, there are going to be some applications that they don't have a Linux version, but there are other software packages that are perfectly fine. LibreOffice is a very good drop-in replacement for Microsoft Office, unless you're the upper echelon of 1% of people using the most edge and advanced features. LibreOffice is going to work for you. Okay, it's going to. It is actually a more robust application than is Microsoft Office. But you do have to save your file formats as the docx instead of the ODT, which you can set. You do have to make sure that you are using fonts that are compatible with the Windows users that are going to be receiving your documents. Otherwise, the formatting problems repeatedly talked about with LibreOffice don't have anything to do with the file format. It has to do with the fact the font isn't supported. And so you have to consider those factors as well. And so look around at those. Now, there's other applications that are going to be different enough. Now, I honestly think GIMP and Photoshop are perilously close. I am an expert in both, probably less so in Photoshop at this point in time. But when I first started switching to Linux a good decade ago, I had my full creative license for Adobe's products, and I was using Photoshop for all the images stuff. Well, for about 10 years now, I've been using GIMP. The transition going from Photoshop to GIMP was very smooth. Since I knew everything in Photoshop, it was just a matter of finding the same exact thing in GIMP. Now, of course, the GIMP 3.0 is going to bring more features, more in alignment with Photoshop, like non-destructive layer editing and things like that, albeit there's a few issues that hopefully get resolved with that. But we are seeing that coming into alignment. But some people say it's just completely different. I don't know. You'd have to play around with both of them, but just realize if you're a Photoshop expert, GIMP is going to be just as easy to learn. Go back and remember what it was like when you learned Photoshop the first time. GIMP is going to be easier to learn because you already know it. Now, there are going to be other applications that you're going to need to hunt around for. Alternative2.net is an excellent website. In fact, I'll go ahead and pull it up here now. So Alternative2.net is a place where you can go and look for applications. So if you're talking about using Word, no, not Word, Microsoft Word there. You can click this in over here, and then you can look for alternatives to the application, and then you can actually sort by a variety of different things. Do you need it to run on an Android tablet? Do you need it to run on Chrome? Do you need it to run, does it have to be open source? In this case, maybe I need to make sure it runs on Linux. So LibreOffice, you'll see, is in the top. You have OnlyOffice. This one has a little bit, does resemble Microsoft Office quite a bit more. Some people might like OpenOffice better if your real intention is to interface with other Windows users. OnlyOffice might be a better choice. We have Apache OpenOffice. However, the last major release was a long time ago, so be aware of that. We have WPS Writer. We have TextMaker, AbiWords. There's a ton of different things. So you can come in over here. Let's just go ahead and type in that Photoshop application, as we had mentioned. So here's our Photoshop, looking for alternatives, sort by Linux. You'll see that GIMP is up there. You have Krita. Krita is a little bit more for drawing, a little bit less than for that, but it is still a respectable application. Here's My Paint. Laws Paint, Mini Paint, I've never heard half of these. Glimpse Image Editor. So you have a number of different options up there. So whatever the software is you're trying to use, just go ahead and type it up here, play around with it. And, since a lot of these things are going to be open source software anyway, you can install it freely on a Linux system and play around with it and spend a year figuring out how to make stuff works. Now, the only other factor, of course, is video games. I'm not a gamer personally. I can't give you a ton of advice on that, but I will tell you that number one, video gaming is becoming infinitely better with Linux than it was even a couple of years ago. Now, the AAA titles that require the full-fledged anti-cheat still generally struggle. Almost every other game works perfectly fine. A lot of this has to do with the Steam OS, with the Steam devices, and the fact that they have worked so closely with Arch, Proton, and Wine just to make sure the compatibility layers needed for video gaming works. And so nearly any game, you can go to your Proton DB. I don't know exactly what the one is there. Let me just do an internet search here and find that one. So there's a database where you can simply look up the various games. It is protondb.com. I thought that's where it was, but I wasn't going to say it without knowing for sure. You can come over here. You can search for games. I'm not a gamer, so I don't even know what to look for. Let's see. Fortnite? That's the only game. I think it's spelled like that. I don't know. I'm not a gamer. I have no idea. Oh, you know what? Let me do this. I think, isn't Fortnite like more internet? But I have no idea. Guys, I'm this clueless in games. Okay, I have played Borderlands. I have played and beat Borderlands. All right, so here you go. So when you pull this up, Game of the Year edition, Borderlands 2, Tales from Borderlands, Borderlands Game and Hence, Borderlands 3, Borderlands Prequel, Borderlands 2. Tales from Borderlands, Borderlands 4. So all of these are you'll see that these are, say, gold. This means that they run very well. I think there's bronze, silver, gold, and I think platinum. So this guy says it runs perfectly after some tweaks. And so what this is Steam Deck. So they'll kind of tell you what devices people were using them on just to get them to work. And then when you click in on these things, there'll be specific instructions about how to set it all up. You can get into that, and there's entire forums about setting all this kind of stuff up, and it's not complicated at all. A friend of mine who is a gamer, who is on Linux, but not like a Linux geek. He's not a computer guy at all, completely hates computers. He figured out how to get Borderlands running on his Linux computer just by following these simple steps and looking at stuff. So there are definitely some options out there. I'd recommend trying out with Linux now before you're in a rush and you have not run out of time. So that's my recommendation. Once again, Windows is not changing their requirements. They're still going to force you to throw away perfectly good computers, which is a total devastation, especially since they want to, Microsoft is one of these companies preaching to us about saving the climate. Well, stop forcing us to buy new computers when our computers work perfectly fine, especially in a super tight economy where money is short. But that being said, start playing around with Linux now. It's going to be your best option going forward. And most people, not everybody, of course, but most people will find they can get along perfectly fine with Linux without going back to Microsoft. So with that, thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you've not already done so. Leave us a like down below and leave us some comments as well. Let me know, did you buy into this, or did you know I was right all along? Let me know in the comments. Have yourselves a wonderful day, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.